The King's Son and the Spirit Girl. Years ago she was raped and buried in the palace, and the truth was hidden beneath gold and silence. Now, she has returned. Omalichinwa, with a body carved like thunder, a beauty that made even the gods blink twice, and eyes that carried the weight of generations. The villagers called her beauty. The prince called her his desire. But none of them knew. She had come to make the bloodline pay. In a quiet village called Umudala, where the forest hums at night and the wind sometimes whispers names, there was a palace. Inside that palace lived a prince named Obiajalu, Obi for short. He was the only son of the king, and everyone knew him as the prince with a sharp tongue and wild hunger. He was proud, rude, and didn't fear anyone. He insulted elders, shouted at chiefs, and treated women like they were nothing. Obi slept with every girl he liked. Even the maids in his father's chambers weren't safe. He once beat a girl for not removing her wrapper fast enough. No one could question him, he was the heir. Then, during the last moon festival, a strange girl came to the village. They called her Omalichanwa, but no one really knew where she came from. She appeared one market day, swaying through the village like the wind that carries secrets from the forest. Omalichanwa's beauty was not just striking, it was a force. A silent, glowing storm. It shone like it had a mind of its own, radiant, full, and undeniable. The kind of beauty that made her presence feel like thunder, yet her walk was silent, too silent. Her elegance rose like the sacred hills beyond the shrine, wide like the village square, and full like a calabash blessed for the gods. Men didn't just stare, they froze, eyes wide, lips dry. She walked through the village square. The earth seemed to pay attention. Her steps were neither rushed nor proud, yet every movement carried the weight of something no one could ignore. Her beauty, full like the harvest moon and twice as hard to forget. It wasn't just striking. It was striking in the way that made old men drop their cola nuts and young boys forget their errands. Omalichanwa's beauty moved like music, not fast, not slow, just enough to stir the air and silence conversations. Married women hissed and looked away, pretending not to notice. Young girls pinched each other with envy burning in their chests. Some said it was a blessing. Others, a curse. For while others saw beauty, the spirits saw vengeance. Who is she? Where did she come from? The villagers' whispers. The old men blamed her for forgetting their prayers. The young men followed her with eyes full of sin. Even the chief once choked when she passed. They all looked. They all watched. They all wanted it. But no one knew that behind that breathtaking figure, beneath that wrapper that swung like a spell, Omalichanwa was not just a girl. She was a spirit. And she had come for revenge. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't buy from the market. She didn't greet the elders. But her body was something else. Big bones, wide hips, smooth dark skin like wet clay. Her eyes were cold. She smiled without meaning it. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was deep, like she had lived too long. The prince saw her once, and something in his chest changed. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was an obsession. He sent guards to call her. She ignored them. He sent a gold necklace. She returned it. That night, he went to find her himself. She was standing by the river, feet in the water, eyes looking into the trees. She smiled when she saw him, but it wasn't the kind of smile men want. It was slow, like something inside her was waiting to come out. She said only one thing. "You remind me of someone." That night, she followed him to the palace. And then the horror begins. She was seen everywhere with the prince. The people were jealous, even the elders. They all wanted a taste of her, but there was nothing they could do. She belongs to their prince already. Young girls were angry. They all wanted the prince to themselves. Not because they loved him, but because they wanted to be the next queen of Umudala village. When they pass, eyes roll. They were seen in every corner of the village playing love and smiling loudly. The prince was no longer himself. It was not just lust, he was obsessed. He worshipped her like a god. He no longer goes after young maidens in the palace or goes about taking advantage of young village girls. All he wanted was Omalichanwa. He was obsessed with everything about her. Her beauty, her grace, and the way she makes his heart beat fast. To him, He has found his queen. Young village boys envied the prince, and the king wasn't an exception. The king was also lusting after Omalichanwa's beauty. It was more like she charmed the entire village men. Behind Omalichanwa's smile was a burning desire for revenge. How could she forget what the people of Umudala and their king did to her? It was more like a curse. Every king and prince that had ever ruled in the palace were always taking advantage of young maidens, and when they found out they were pregnant, the king or prince would send the palace guard to kill them. Omalichanwa wasn't the only victim, but her case was different. She was an orphan and the only surviving child of her lineage. Years ago, before her grandmother passed away, she sent her to the palace to work as a maid, so she could at least survive when she was gone. Omalichanwa, whose name was Uloma, worked diligently in the palace, yet she was molested. The king, Prince Obiajalu's father, who was then a prince, took advantage of her several times, and so did his father, Prince Obiajalu's great-grandfather. She cried day and night, and was told if she mentioned it to anyone, they would kill her. Both father and son raped her countless times as they would secretly sneak into her room every night. An abomination they weren't ashamed of. She later found out she was pregnant, and knowing fully well they would kill her like other girls, she tried to escape at night, but unfortunately she was caught. The king ordered the palace guard to bury her alive. She cried, screamed, and begged, but no one came to her rescue. That was how she died. Her spirit had returned for revenge, and she set out to destroy not just the palace but the entire village. She started with the rude prince who can't get his eyes out of everything under the skirt. The only heir to Umudala village. She vowed to make him useless. She had sexual intercourse with him, and he lost his manhood after that and went dumb. She also slept with the king, and he also lost his manhood and sense. Both king and prince worshipped her like a god. She went about the village, sleeping with every man that wanted a taste of her, even married men and foolish chiefs. They all lost their manhood one after the other, and also their senses. She was on a mission. To put an end to all the evil men in the village, men who leave their wives and chase young girls, kings, elders, and young boys who chase anything under the skirt. She rendered almost all the men in Umudala useless without manhood. After sleeping with her, they couldn't tell what they saw. She made the king and the prince surrender their crowns. They bowed before her, not out of love, but fear. And just like that, she became the first woman to rule Umudala as king. Chaos followed. Drums of war fell silent. Elders hid behind walls. And on the third night, the old king was found dead in his chamber, his eyes wide open, staring at something no living soul could see. Now, men and women bow to the spirit girl. No one dared speak her name unless the moon was watching. No one dared challenge her, not even in dreams. But time, even for spirits, has limits. Her time in the land of the living was almost up. Despite her desire for revenge, she still has a heart for her fellow ladies. Omalichanwa stood in the village square for the last time. Her voice rose like thunder laced with flame. From this day forward, she declared, any man who cheats on his wife, or forces himself on a girl in this village, shall run mad, and lose his manhood. The ground trembled beneath her feet. Palms bent in agreement. A heavy silence swept through the village. Before she disappeared, she gathered the women and passed her power into their hands. She crowned them with courage, wisdom, and the strength to lead. Since that day, no man has ever ruled Umudala again. They have only known women kings. And every girl is taught the name Omalichanwa, not just as a legend, but as the one who changed the kingdom, forever. Omalichanwa didn't stop there. When it was time for her to leave the village, she turned to the prince, her eyes calm, her voice like wind before a storm, and ordered him to marry her. Still foolishly blinded by desire and pride, the prince agreed. On the day of the wedding, as drums beat and dancers circled, her true form revealed itself. Right there before the village, her skin cracked, her voice deepened, and her beauty twisted into something ancient and monstrous. Horns sprouted, her eyes turned black, and her once soft smile stretched unnaturally wide, echoing through the air like a curse reborn. Then she turned to the prince, now trembling beside her, and whispered, now we are bound for life. You wanted a beauty you couldn't keep your eyes off, now you'll never look away. She leaned close, her breath cold as the grave. You are married to the dead, and it's time for us to go home." Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked open with a deafening roar. Before anyone could move, they both vanished, swallowed by the earth, leaving only silence and a wrapper dancing in the wind. The villagers were left in awe, some trembling, others weeping, all silent. No one could speak of what they had seen without their voices shaking. From that day forward, everything changed. Women were no longer silenced in council meetings. No longer overlooked and undervalued. No longer treated as shadows beneath their husbands. They were feared. They were honored. They were obeyed. And as for the men, none dared to cheat on their wives. None dared to chase after young girls in secret paths or empty compounds. The few who tried were found in the forest, mad, naked, and screaming, their pride stolen by the curse of the spirit queen. Omali Chanwa was gone, but her warning remained. And her rule, though brief, planted a legacy that reshaped the village of Umudala forever.